Hello, I'm Corey Hickson, and I'm here to introduce some additional templates available on the website www.dxed.org that can help instructors in terms of supporting cultural and linguistic diversity. This is both in terms of teaching new languages and also accommodating students who may be becoming more proficient in the languages and the culture that the learning communities are teaching classes in. So if the homeschool uses a particular language, these templates will be useful in terms of assessing the difference in content knowledge and linguistic skill that may present performance differences statistically from student to student. This is in order to make sure that each student is learning equally and has an equal chance at success in each of the courses. So if you'd like, I'd like to go over the templates really quickly. The website itself is a teacher resource that contains several blank forms and also some completed templates for offering courses in classroom settings. And the system for assessment that was built into these courses was designed using a self-report confidence inventory. Now, the reason to use a self-report confidence inventory is to gather feedback from the students in terms of formative assessment and also post-hoc to be able to reassess the confidence that students may have gained in terms of mastering the content in their learning, expected learning outcome areas. So the way that this can be adapted for cultural and linguistic diversity is by comparing confidence in each of two languages. The language, of course, that the students are the most familiar with using would be the home language, and the second language, of course, would be the expected language in the learning community that's teaching the classes itself. Now, I know that some organizations, primarily the United Nations, do have expectations in terms of which languages will be taught and how people in each community will be able to interact with the systems that the United Nations provides and also the services. But this system is designed for measuring confidence between any number of languages, as long as the system is measuring only between each of two languages. And these languages can be selected based on the individual students' preferences and also the overall needs of each classroom. So what this does is this enables this blended learning system of instruction to be brought into classrooms where language and cultural barriers may influence the outcomes of the teaching in any other case. The resource provides a way to understand the processes of scaffolding and the different levels of proficiency that students may have during learning activities. This CLD system is designed for use in terms of teaching people to go do something in the community and be able to either partner with volunteer agencies or accomplish something with an internship or a work-related, field-related work experience for students to go out into the employment world and apply the skills that are learned in terms of using the languages and understanding the cultures in the surrounding community. So this can be very useful for teaching languages and also very useful for people who are coming to a new community that need to adapt to the languages and standards that are used there. This dynamic then becomes something that asks the students not necessarily to struggle with the learning institution or the instructors themselves, but then it asks the students to realize that the expectations are to meet the course requirements in the expected language. And then also, by creating a measure of correlation between confidence in the home language and confidence in the expected language, it can be determined whether or not students have become more confident in the use of language, also while measuring the level of difference that the language differences may be creating in terms of understanding the content knowledge and the academic knowledge that's expected by the course. So that's kind of the dynamic, is between the students and the course rubrics, but it also provides a measure of how much the language that's being used can influence the outcomes on other types of assessments, cognitive assessments, and in terms of understanding whether or not the students have adapted to begin to understand the learning outcomes in any of the subjects that the templates can be used to teach. So it is a reality that in many places people have to learn to adapt to a new language or cultural skill set to get along in social space. And also what you'll find here is the different formal models that people use for cultural and linguistic diversity training, but it also connects those formal models with skill sets that students can use to adapt to adversity and to begin being capable of adapting to acculturative stress and developing new skills for language acquisition, learning in general. It also helps to motivate the learning that students may engage in intrinsically in order to allow people to build functional skills for just coping with any unfamiliar situation in general. The way that this helps is, of course, by creating a community learning resource that helps students to transcend from kind of a maybe culturally diverse population and move into the larger population with confidence in the skills that are needed to then, as was said, go and explore employment contexts and higher education with a new understanding and also the skills for adapting and possibly sometimes struggling with the course rubrics themselves and the expectations that the academic community may have. And so overall, this kind of experience can help people learn to deal with uncertainty and also to deal with struggling to acquire knowledge, but also to employ teamwork and team building skills to work together to create solutions and epistemologies for acquiring the knowledge that's needed to accomplish the task in any given content area. So this is research-based, focused on some underpinned psychological models, Gestalt psychology, some of the neurology that's related to language acquisition, and also some of the neurology that's related to just understanding how people deal with stress, especially long-term stress in general. So this kind of program can not only improve language skills, but the program can also improve the overall health of the community and allow students who typically use the mainstream dominant language in the community to also be more comfortable with working with communities and engaging with communities that may use the less dominant languages and cultures, and just being able to create interactions among the populations between the two by creating community experiences and allowing for transcendence into the larger community that facilitates meaningful learning. It makes it so that the reason that the students are learning both the content knowledge and the language and the cultures, respectively, of each, the cultures of each group, respectively, then can help reduce social vulnerability and increase community cohesion, and also increase the student perception of meaning and confidence in their work. So just being able to adapt this system of templates helps to just kind of create that extra cultural sensitivity in situations where the instructor may need to focus on making sure that the learning and the accomplishments in the learning are equal. So thank you for viewing my presentation. Take a moment to peruse the website, take a look at some of the ways in which measuring the differences that languages and impacts that the differences in languages can have on the learning process, as well as the impacts that the learning environment can have on the learning process. And this generally will just provide an overview for current instructors to be able to add to the existing skill set, and also to be able to employ while using the Understanding by Design templates and other resources that are available on the site. So thank you for your time. And I hope that you find these resources useful for your next community engagement project, helping students to go and